Yeah, I'm going to start recording.
All right. Are we ready to get started? Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to World Changer Wednesday. I'm Miss Kesey, a student support specialist at Minchville High School, and I'm joined here today with Miss Davis, the student support specialist from Woodside High School. We both have student interns from Virginia Commonwealth University. Many of you know it as VCU, Taylor and Sarah, who are here with us today as well, and they will be joining in on the presentation to facilitate some fun interactive activities with you. They also created this awesome PowerPoint that you see displayed here today. And we also have some other special members from the Department of Student Advancement that will be on this presentation with us as well. Right now, I just want to take a moment to say what an awesome lineup of events and activities that have been planned on your behalf for Student Empowerment Month. Wow. There are so many impactful opportunities for leading you on a journey of self-development, self-confidence, higher purpose, and leading you to becoming your very best. It's so very impressive. And we are so excited to be a part of this mindset and mental health conversation with you today. And during our time here today, we will be talking with you about anxiety, stress, depression, healthy relationships, and coping skills. And, we definitely wanted to highlight the healthy relationships because we know that is so very important as we move through these difficult times that we've been experiencing. As we all know, so much has been going on in our lives lately with learning to live in a pandemic, dealing with isolation, and basically a loss of everything that was a part of our normal routine. And on top of all of that, add in all the extra pressures of virtual learning and then trying to just maintain our social lives and social relationships, right? At times, I'm sure we all felt like we were just coming unglued and we're just in a constant battle for peace. And I'm also sure that at times, some of our stress and anxiety levels became very heavy, compromising our overall mental health. Well, during this presentation, we will explore these feelings as well as various effective ways to help kind of manage those feelings. Okay, and we want to keep this presentation as interactive as possible. So please feel free to utilize that chat box feature to ask any questions that you may have or to respond to any questions that we may ask you. We have Sarah monitoring the chats throughout the presentation to be sure to catch everything that's there. So if we can't get to all your questions, you'll have an opportunity to ask them during a panel discussion that's going to take place right after this presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over right now to Ms. Davis so we can go ahead and get started. So let's get ready to grow, ladies.
Hello, thank you, Ms. Kesey. I appreciate that wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to be here. Again, my name is Katina Davis, and today I'm going to talk with you a little bit about stress. What is stress? I know you all have been feeling it a lot in the last couple of months. So first, let me tell you that stress is normal. Stress is a normal part of life. Secondly, everyone handles stress differently. Some stress they may be experiencing may be equivalent to feeling sad or feeling down or feeling irritable. But stress, nevertheless, is still normal. It's how you cope with stress that makes it abnormal. And third, there is always stress can be defined either both negative and positive stress. We're going to talk about both today. When you receive positive stress, your hormones have these particular experiences. And basically, it enhances your motivation, it creates connection, and it actually gives you a little more energy, okay? But on today, I want to just basically define stress for you. Stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. Stress is your body's response to anything that requires attention or action. Sometimes the best way to manage stress is to just change your situation, change your mindset. Now, we're going to talk about negative effects of stress. Unfortunately, our body, mind, emotions, and behaviors have an impact on how we perceive stress. If you're feeling like you have a headache or you're feeling sick, your stomach is hurting, you may be experiencing stress. Worrying, constantly feeling like you're in a fog, you may be experiencing stress. Emotions, just not confident. You can't sleep, you're irritable, you can't do your homework, you can't function, you're not engaged in school, you may be experiencing stress. And lastly, loss of appetite, loneliness, and even restlessness. So those are the different signs and the effect of stress. So if you're feeling those things, please, please, please talk to someone that you feel comfortable with engaging, and where's confidentiality there, whether it's a school counselor, your parent, or even a mentor. Secondly, I want to talk to you about statistics. Many times when we're dealing with stress, we do not feel that anyone understands our stress. We feel like stress is something that is by ourselves. 20% of young people that are dealing with depression are coping with stress, and they don't want to tell anybody because they don't want to have the stigma. So I'm gonna allow you to just listen to Taylor as well as Sarah do a stress intervention called Stress Press.
And advance the slides.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for letting me join in today. I really appreciate it. So I am going to show you guys a fun activity that I use a lot, and it's called Stress Press. So the Stress Press is a technique that helps you feel better when you're feeling really stressed out. So learning how to make yourself feel better when you are stressed is really important, because stress affects the way you feel and think and behave, like we saw with Mrs. Davis's previous slide. And so let's practice this technique. I'm going to do it with you all. So we're going to hold out our hands. We're going to face our palms up. Okay. We're going to use our right hand and our finger to make circles on our left hand palm. Make a few circles right there. All right. Put them back up. And now we're going to use our left hand to make circles on our right palm. Tighten your fingers. Straighten your hands up and press your palms together. Press them really tight. Don't hurt yourself though. All right. Have our elbows out to the side, and my arms are already shaking. You should press and create that tension within your arms. Press your palms together and slowly count to 10. When you count to 10, release your arms. That shakiness is gone, and our arms feel nice and loose. That shakiness and tension that we created is just like the tension that comes from stress. And so this practice really helps us reduce that negative feeling and tension from stress. And so practicing this activity when we're really happy and feeling good, that's going to really make you a pro at relaxing when you are experiencing stress. Thank you all for participating, and I'm going to move it on to Mrs. Kesey to talk about our next topic, which is anxiety.
Wow, that was great. It's very relaxing, Taylor. Thank you so much for that demonstration. So yes, to all the young ladies participating, please be sure to place that useful strategy in your coping skill toolbox to use in times of high stress. So now let's move on to anxiety. Anxiety is such a big emotion and sometimes a very scary emotion to cope with. And then when you add in the whirlwind of changes that come along with adolescence, anxiety can just feel so intrusive and overwhelming, right? Sometimes teens often don't recognize anxiety for what it is. Instead, many of them think there's something wrong with them. They may even think they're weird, out of control, or even going crazy. Oftentimes, these thoughts kind of make them feel even more anxious and self conscious. So, if you've been feeling a little or a lot of anxiety and it's kind of making a menace of itself in your life, the good news is there are ways to manage this very big emotion. But first, what is anxiety? So, as you can see here on the slide, anxiety is a normal reaction to stress or difficult situations. Everybody feels anxious at some point in their lives, especially when they're faced with unfamiliar or somewhat dangerous scenarios. But I do want you to know anxiety is very common during the teenage years. And this is mainly because you, as teenagers, you have so many new experiences, opportunities, challenges that happens for you during this stage of development. Like, for example, I know a lot of teenagers, you worry about having a certain look or style, fitting in with friends, peer pressure, social media. Teenagers also worry a lot about schoolwork, virtual learning, and it's also a time where your brains are developing so rapidly. So, feeling anxious in some instances can become a part of your normal range of emotions. Um, so, just know that all of these feelings, they impact us the way they do because during an incident that causes us fear or overwhelm, or an incident where we are totally preoccupied with what could happen, that emotional part of our brain is called the amygdala. It becomes highly activated. So, as you can see right here, you can see on the slide, our brains, we go through so many different emotions. So, when our brains are activated, it releases several hormones, one of those being adrenaline. Now, I know some of you are probably very familiar with that hormone. And once our brains are in this activated state, it sends us into a fight, flight, or freeze state and prepares us for fast action, right? But it can almost feel like all of that anxiety is kind of hijacking our brain and taking over and causing the other parts of our brain, like the thinking part of our brain, difficulty in carrying out its functions. Yeah. So now, for most teenagers, anxiety, it doesn't last and it goes away on its own. So as you can see, it does have a starting point and an ending point. But for some teenagers, anxiety doesn't go away as easily or quickly. And it actually can become so intense that it stops them from doing everyday things. And they start to experience feelings such as what you see up here: excessive worry, loss of control over breathing, irritability. And then there are those somatic complaints. And what we mean by somatic, that's the physical symptoms that we will feel, like the stomach aches, the headaches, the fatigue, the muscle tension, the restlessness. How about disturbances in our sleep? Sometimes when we're feeling really anxious, it's hard to have like that peaceful, restful sleep. And a lot of these, some of them can get to the point where they're debilitating, meaning it makes our body really weak. And also with anxiety, some people, they can actually get to the point where they're, quite frequently feeling that intense sense of dread. Or when we talk about not being able to breathe or having difficulties with our breathing, they may feel like they're actually suffocating. And for other people, they have this continuous anticipation of major catastrophes happening. And oftentimes that can lead to a full blown panic attack. And we know that that panic is very, very extreme, very intense fear, right? And a lot of times that panic happens when there's really no real danger or apparent cause. It just kind of happens. Okay, so we can move on to the next slide because now that we've talked a little bit about and what anxiety is, let's move on to how we can manage this anxiety. Yeah. So look at, well, before we even look at this, I want to say this one thing to you about anxiety. First and foremost, when you're feeling anxiety coming on, acknowledge it. Okay. Acknowledge it and allow it to be there, because this takes a lot of its power away. Right. So if your first instinct is to stuff that emotion down inside of you and not deal with it, it's not good. It not only will persist, but it will intensify, and it can become very, very hard to control at that point. So once we've acknowledged that it's there are strategies, that are quite effective in the management of that anxiety. And we have several listed here that we're going to go over. So let's look at number one. Number one, become a relaxation expert. What does that mean? There are a lot of relaxation techniques out there, like deep breathing or any other mind-body practice. And when we participate in deep breathing, what it does, it activates that relaxation response within our bodies, by relaxing this vagus nerve. I don't know if you've ever heard of your vagus nerve. That vagus nerve, that's a major, major nerve in your body that runs from your diaphragm all the way up to your brain. It kind of just does that and relaxes it, right? And also deep breathing, it moves us out of that fight, flight, or freeze mode that we talked about a little earlier. And it kind of moves us into more of a rest and digest mode. And then it also increases those feel-good chemicals in our brain that's called endorphins. That deep breathing, it releases a lot of those chemicals, which also kind of pushes us more towards relaxation. So again, the most common relaxation technique, the one that I personally like to use a lot, is the deep breathing. And I want you to look at it like this too. Breathing is our flow of life, right? And it energizes our body. So if someone falls out and becomes unconscious, what's the first thing someone try to do to help them? They try to breathe life into them, right? Through mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. So it's our life force, okay? Deep breathing also, it quiets a lot of that stimuli in our brain, and it calms all of that anxiety and kind of alleviates all of that stress that's flowing throughout our bodies, right? It definitely can give us that moment to kind of reset and focus. All right, let's move on to the next screen. Next slide, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. So connecting with, I'm sorry, let's go back to the one. I want to make sure I covered everything because I feel like I did. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm moving a little too fast because the one thing that I do want to talk about is getting enough sleep, nourishment, and exercise. That is so very, very important. And I tell people all the time, sleep has magical powers. Just sleeping and resting your body is pretty magical because it kind of restores our bodies, right? So getting the right amount of sleep for our need, it naturally resets our brain and it kind of like supercharges our energy levels. So also eating right, such as choosing fruits and vegetables, lean protein like lean meats. What else? Like I said, vegetables, grains, all of those things kind of nourish our body and it gives us that long-term energy and keeps us healthy. Now, exercising. Look at the bear on the screen. He is definitely getting his exercising in, huh? So when you're exercising, it not only sends oxygen and nutrients throughout our bodies so that we can operate at our best, but it also, like we talked about earlier, it also helps release those feel-good chemicals too, those endorphins. All right. So now we can move on to the next slide. Yes. Okay. Look at number 3, connect with others. All right. Maintaining that connection with others. We know maintaining the connection with positive friends and family where we feel supported and secure and know that we have someone to talk to when we're in need, especially when we're feeling nervous or worried. This helps keeps our emotions regulated, and it kind of increases our happiness. Okay. So look at number 4, connecting with nature. Look at this one. What you see, hear, and experience always can aid in improving our mood in any moment. Okay. So heading out for a walk in your neighborhood, it could be a walk in a park, it could be a hike in the woods, or riding your bike. That can help you reach that place of peace. It can help you feel peaceful. It can help you feel grounded, and it can contribute to your overall physical well-being by it helps with like reducing your heart rate. So if you're all worked up, it helps reduce that heart rate. Muscle tension, if you're all stressed and your muscles are kind of feeling tense, it kind of helps, alleviate a lot of that tension in your muscle. Okay. And one important thing that it does also is it reduces the production of those troubling stress hormones, right? And then let's look at thinking positively. Wow. Yeah, you can do this by focusing your thoughts on things that are good, things that are beautiful, things that are positive in your life, right? These thoughts they really do help increase your mood. Okay. So whenever you're feeling down, one thing that I found to be very helpful, you can kind of think of or write down at least 3 things that's going positively in your life, and guaranteed your mood will increase. Okay. And another thing that I like to tell people, allow yourself to dream, allow yourself to wish, allow yourself to imagine the best that could happen. And again, just that small technique, that can do wonders for increasing your mood. So now let's get ready for the fun stuff. Let's practice some grounding exercises. And I'm going to turn it over right now to Taylor and Sarah to explain grounding to you and to go over a couple of practices with you.
Thank you, Miss Kesey. So to add to that wonderful growing toolbox that we have with coping skills, grounding is another technique that we can use to reduce feelings of anxiety. Grounding helps us to detach from negative emotions and feelings and shift our attention to the external world around us. So one example of grounding is focused breathing, also known as mindfulness breathing. So this practice helps you relax and clear your mind. So if you want to do this with me, to practice mindful breathing, we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds through your nose, hold for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 4 seconds through your mouth and hold for 4 seconds. And then you can do this 4 to 6 times on your own, but right now we're just going to do this once. So we're going to breathe in and hold it, and then breathe out and hold it. And even just with that one breath, I know that I feel just relaxed just from that one breath. So that's one skill that we can add to our coping skill toolbox. And then another example is the 5-4-3-2-1 exercise. This practice calls attention to your body and helps you decrease stress. So when we do this, I want you to focus on your breathing and think of 5 things that you can see. And just make a mental note in your head, and then think of 4 things that you can feel. Think about 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that maybe you can taste that's around you. And when we do this, we move throughout our body, focusing on our 5 different senses, and it helps us to calm down and center our mind on the present moment. So now I'm going to turn it over to Miss Davis.
And Miss Davis, I just noticed that Miss Denaya had a question in the chat, and I only stopped right here because it's related to stress and anxiety before we move on into the next topic. The question was, can you pass away with too much stress and anxiety? And well, I will say, Janaya, that even though high anxiety or panic attacks can feel like a heart attack or other serious conditions, it will not cause you to pass away. However, they are very serious and they definitely need to be treated, because if it's not treated, it can definitely cause other areas of concern as it relates to your overall health and well-being. So although it's not anything that can cause you to pass away, it can compromise your overall health and well-being. So I hope that kind of answered your question. If not, definitely let me know in the chat, and then I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kesey. So I'm going to discuss depression. Depression is a feeling of sadness, is a feeling of detachment, and sometimes depression can also lead to hurting yourself. Many times, people with anxiety are likely to also experience depression. Depression affects how you feel, think, and your ability to function. So when you start feeling irritable or start changing sleeping or eating habits, you may be dealing with depression. So today we're going to offer some interventions and some coping skills to help you with how to decrease depression and understand the hormones behind depression. Next slide. Earlier, I talked about statistics. I want you to understand that many times when we are going through depression, we feel like we are by ourselves. You are never alone. You have your parents that love you. You have your mentors that love you. You have friends that love you. You have people that are looking out for you and you don't even know. So let me share a couple of statistics with you. Did you know that 20% of females suffer a depressive episode? 20% of females. 3.2 million American teenagers express depression. And 60% of teens who suffer from depression do not receive no treatment. They don't go to counselors. They don't talk to a mentor. They don't talk to friends. They just suffer in silence. You do not have to suffer in silence. There is help out there for you. So with that said, I want you to understand the importance of self-care and taking care of yourself. Ms. Kesey, can you please tell the students the importance of self-care?
Definitely. I live for self-care. Okay. No, but thank you, Ms. Davis. That was a lot of important, valuable information shared. And you have learned so much here today, including strategies that you can place in your self-care or coping skill toolbox, right? So I always tell people, we have to make sure that we stay mindful of taking care of ourselves and being very, very deliberate about it, right? I know a lot of people toss around that term self-care, but self-care is a very serious concept, and it has to be a conscious decision that you make to gift yourself with whatever you need at that moment in time to achieve the desired outlook that you are looking for. Okay, so we went over so many different, when we were discussing anxiety, we talked about so many different things that could help manage anxiety, but those very things that we talked about, those can be used as a part of your self-care plan too. We talked about exercising, eating well, getting enough sleep. We talked about deep breathing, my favorite. We talked about positive friendships. Yep, that's a very, very important one. Positive friendships and relationships. We talked about thinking positively and connecting with nature. So you have to take the time to do these things for the sake of your overall mental, physical, and emotional health. And just know, taking care of yourself often will help you better be able to cope with stress, better be able to cope with anxiety, or any other major feelings that you may have. And we can move on to the next slide. Also, something very, very important. Important people who positively impact your life. Positively, okay? And that's your support system. Your support system is very, very important. These are people that you can rely on for resources and support, people that you can call on when you're in a crisis. They will be there for you and provide you with guidance, direction, support, love, right? And who are these people? These are the people you see right here: your family, your friends, coaches, your teachers, and your counselors. Okay? It's all about relationships, positive relationships. So, right now, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Davis so that we can learn a little bit more about how important relationships are in our life. Miss
Yes.
Davis?
Relationships are the foundation of our self-esteem. If I had to define what a relationship was, I would say that relationship is a connection with those people that make you feel valuable, loved, and respected. Let me say that again. Relationships is a connection with those people that make you feel loved, valued, and respected. When you have a healthy relationship, your self-esteem is better. You create a more positive socialization in your environment. And good relationships provide you with that external motivation that you need to succeed. Today, I want to talk with you about a few characteristics of healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. Healthy relationships: good communication, respect, trust, and feeling valued by the other person. Healthy relationship: selflessness, power and control, emotional, social, and physical abuse, unhealthy relationship, and poor communication. Now, without being technical, I want to explain how our mind works and the different hormones in our mind. We have good hormones and we have bad hormones. We have happy and we have sad hormones. The happy hormones is when we're in a healthy relationship. We are excited and we're happy and we're creative and we feel successful. You feel like you can do anything. That is a healthy relationship. An unhealthy relationship, total opposite. Makes you feel unhappy, irritable, not loved, not motivated, disrespected. So when you are in a relationship, if you're not feeling those positive hormones, the serotonin in your brain that makes you feel good, then that may not be the relationship for you. And you may start to see red flags. What are red flags? Well, Ms. Kesey will explain red flags to you.
Okay, thank you, Miss Davis. Red flags. Okay, so, in relationships and friendships, oftentimes we will put up with bad behavior to avoid being alone, right? I know we have all been guilty of that. We know that friend groups are very important, and that desire to be accepted within those friend groups can be very, very strong. Now, a lot of times, I should have known better moments. I always say that to my child. I should have known better, air quote, moments. Those happen in friendships. But we always want to give our friends the benefit of doubt. But it's important that we trust our instincts, okay? We have to trust that our intuition, is leading us in the right direction, okay? Because sometimes our relationships, they can be draining and really toxic, right? Most of us know at some level when a friendship has turned toxic, but we may have a very hard time admitting that we made a poor choice in placing our trust in that person, okay? So what I want to do, as we see right here on the screen, I want to just go over a couple of these red flags. All right, so let's see, constantly, what about a friend that constantly criticizes your self-worth? It is truly, truly helpful to recognize and understand that certain behaviors like these that we have listed here aren't okay, okay? So constantly criticizing your self-worth, that is not okay. Make threats against you or someone you love, okay, that's not okay. Not only is it not okay, is very, very scary and very, very concerning. How about number 3? Controls your relationships with friends and family. Mm-mm. You know, oftentimes this happens by trying to like isolate you from your family and friends. That's totally unacceptable. Let's look at number 4. Difficult time controlling their temper. That is definitely a red flag. You know, if they are quite, honestly, if they are incapable of, you know, controlling their emotions, that's a pretty scary thing. And that might not be a safe person to be around. How about number 5? Do not respect you as an equal partner in the relationship. That imbalance in that relationship, no, that is definitely a red flag. So these right here, these 5 are some of the common ones. And, you know, some other ones are like hanging around you when they need something. That's definitely a friend that you don't want to be around. Or how about those friends that's always in drama? You don't need to hang around them either, because, you know, sometimes I know you've heard the saying, birds of a feather. You know, people, when they see other people who create a lot of drama and you're hanging around those people that create a lot of drama, sometimes they think you are the same way. So be really, really careful about the friends that you bring into your life. So these right here are definitely signs that you may want to take a deep, deep look at that friendship. So now let's go on to the next slide.
Miss Casey, we do have some questions in the chat.
Oh, I'm
Um,
sorry.
It's okay. One of our questions is, what if you know you're in an unhealthy relationship, but they are all you have?
You know, here's the thing. You never want to put yourself in a situation where you compromise your emotional well-being and actually your physical safety just for the sake of having someone in your life. I always tell people I would rather walk alone than to walk with someone who hurts me, who disrespects me. So I want you to always remember that. You know, you are a very important person and you deserve to be treated with respect. So if the person that is in your life as your friend does not offer that respect, I would rather see you leave that relationship and be by yourself than to be with somebody or friends with somebody that treats you poorly and disrespects you. There are plenty of people out here that, you know, I'm sure you can find something in common with, you know, and make new friends. So just always remember your worth and your value, and don't ever, ever compromise that or allow anyone to compromise that.
And then another question that we had is, what happens if you ignore the red flags, and can you put yourself in danger if you ignore red flags for so long?
You said what will happen? What will happen is, you know, you will find yourself in significant emotional distress. Now, we talked about anxiety and we talked about depression. Now, continuously placing yourself in a situation where you're with someone and you like say these 1 through 5 red flags, they're consistently in that relationship, then trust it could possibly cause anxiety. It could possibly lead to depression or other serious emotions. So if you see the red flags, recognize those red flags and know that you have to do what you can to separate yourself from that relationship, because it's not healthy and it's not worth it. In the long run, you know, compromising your health and emotional well-being is never worth it. Okay? Because like I said, it's so many different people in schools that you can kind of find something in common with that will respect you and treat you the way that, you know, you have that ideal friendship, like what friendships are supposed to look like, supportive and loving and caring. Why risk your emotional well-being, you know, when there's someone else out there that probably shared something in common with you that you could really connect with? So I would definitely recommend separating myself from a person where I know it's toxic If a person just depletes all the energy out of you, then you know that's not a relationship you need to be in. You want to be in a relationship or friendship. And when I say relationship, I'm speaking for friends too. It's just a word that I use that kind of encompasses everything. But you want to surround yourself with people that nourishes you, not people that deplete you. Okay. I hope I answered that question.
And just to add, Ms. Kesey,
Mhm.
to the answer for the young lady's question, also it is physically, not only physically, emotionally dangerous, but that individual can harm you or can harm someone you love. So understand it's not a laughing matter. It's a decision that has to be taken very, very seriously.
Yep,
Okay.
definitely. All right. So let's move on to the next slide. And on this slide, what you see here are several different scenarios. So I'm going to quickly go through these, and you can respond by putting, healthy or unhealthy in the chat. And Sarah is going to, monitor the chat so we can see how you're responding. So let's look at number one. Your partner or friend calls you multiple times a day and gets upset if you don't pick up. Is that healthy or unhealthy? Mm-hmm.
We're
Yep.
getting lots of unhealthy.
That's right. That is unhealthy.
Mhm.
That's a definite sign of an insecure and jealous friend. So unhealthy. Let's look at number two. So your partner or friend really cares about you, but they don't want you hanging out with your other friends anymore.
Mhm.
Healthy or unhealthy? What we have. Y'all thinking hard about that one?
Mhm.
Yep, we're getting more unhealthy.
All right. Yes, that is definitely unhealthy because to me, that's trying to isolate you, and that's being very, very possessive and very, very controlling. Number three, your partner or friend listens to you and respects your opinion. I'm seeing some healthies pop up. Very good. And always remember, do not tolerate anything less than that. Number four, the last one. Your partner or friend calls you names and makes you feel bad about yourself. Seeing the unhealthies popping up. Very good. No true friend would ever put you down. They would always be kind and respectful to you. Okay. So I just want to say, before I turn over to Ms. Davis, that keep this in the back of your mind. Your friendships, they should always be loving, kind, supportive, and they should always, always positively influence you. Okay. Bad friendships, they will always undermine your self-confidence and can cause you such deep emotional distress and anxiety, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. So having those kind, loving, caring friends will make life an easier journey. It really will. And it will also help to make you a better person. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Davis right now to kind of close us out on this segment on unhealthy and healthy relationships.
Thank you, Ms. Kesey. And yes, having those kind, loving friends are definitely the key. But unfortunately, we also have unhealthy relationships that we know that we have to make a decision about. So you asked myself and Ms. Kesey, well, what do we do now? What do we do from here? Well, it's time to step. It's time to support, find a time and place, explain and prepare. I want you to remember what STEP is. STEP is another definition of letting go of an unhealthy relationship and taking back your power. I want you to remember, S stands for support. Find support through your professional school counselor. We are constantly talking about school counselors, positive friendships, positive friends, parents, mentors, anybody that has an impact on your life and shares your dream to succeed and helping you grow. Connect with them, find support so they can help you through this process. Time. Set a time up in a place where you can make a decision. Tell yourself, I am beautiful, I am smart, and I am powerful. What, Miss Davis? Yes. When you make that decision and you make time to be able to tell that person that it is over or just let go or dispose of that unhealthy relationship, I want you to constantly look yourself in the mirror or say to yourself over and over and over again, I am smart, I am beautiful, and I am powerful. Explain. Explain to yourself, but definitely explain. Explain your reasons for letting go of a relationship. I'm not loved, I'm not respected, and I'm not happy. Those are the characteristics that are for happy relationships. And you are in an unhealthy relationship, so it's time to dispose and let go. And lastly, prepare. Prepare yourself for the emotional feelings that you are going to get, the anxiety, the depression, feeling lonely. Those are brief learning emotional feelings that you may get because you made a very responsible decision. And again, after you prepare for making an honest decision that's best for you, which is another definition of self-care, I want you to use all of the strategies and interventions that you learned through this webinar. Connect with positive people, breathing exercises, counting, relaxation, meditation, support. Find something that you enjoy that helps your impact and help you be more of a positive person so you can make the right decisions for yourself. Now, lastly, and I really want you to put them in the chat, tell us some of the things or some of the strategies, interventions that you learned here that you are going to utilize in the future. And it's going to help you on your journey of growth. Thank you so, so very much.
And I want to say too, it looks like we have a couple of questions that popped up. Sarah, do we have a couple of questions? I think I'm seeing this correctly. Carshil says, my best friend and I call each other multiple times, but it's because we get worried about each other. Is that healthy? Well, what I would say is it's always okay to care and worry about your friends, but when it gets to the point where it's becoming really, really intense and consuming, it may, be borderline anxiety. And so what I would do is some of the things that we kind of talked about today for anxiety and some of the tools we talked about, putting in your self-care toolbox or your coping skill toolbox, I would, kind of pull some of those out, Harshil, and try to apply those. And if those you don't find those to be helpful, then I would follow some of the suggestions that Ms. Davis just made and also that I touched on when we were talking about support systems, reaching out. You have several different supports available for you in your school or with your families, with your teachers. So I would highly suggest reaching out to a couple of those. And then I see Sophia said, according to, I'm just going to take one more and then we can, because I know we are pressed for time and we're going to start our panel. But Sophia, what I would do is I would just recommend you, have a conversation with your mother, your family, and as it relates to that relationship with your brother, and help them kind of bring some resolve to whatever issues that you and your brother may be having. Okay, so I'll turn it back over.
Okay,
I know
so lastly, strategies. Put in the chat some of the strategies that you're going to use on your journey to self-care, on your journey to decreasing anxiety and depression, and on your journey to having healthy and happy relationships.
All right. Well, this concludes our presentation. We did good on time. I think we went over about 6 minutes. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today with us in this space. We really enjoyed this time. If you have any questions, again, we have an opportunity to kind of answer additional questions in the panel that's going to begin at 2 o'clock. Again, I'm Ms. Kesey. And you had Ms. Davis here. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to either of us or your school counselor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to let you know that we have, this is Bridget Adams. Hi, ladies. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I know it has been amazing. Just wanted to let you know that we have joined you from the Flourish group. So we had another group of young folks who just had a great session with Kim Tree Slaughter. So she's here with us, joining you guys as a panelist.
Right.
We're really excited for the next session. So we don't want anyone to leave. You have 8 minutes to grab a snack, grab something to drink, and come right back because we're going to talk about our feelings. Whoop, whoop.
Hey,
Okay.
Bridget, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So when the moderator presents the questions, so we can just jump in at any time or just
Well,
as
she's in. Is Rakia on yet? Is Rakia with us yet? Our moderator.
Mhm.
Has she joined us? Hopefully
Yes.
she'll be joining in a few minutes. If not, you
I
guys
think I
have the
just
questions. We're gonna make it do what it do.
she's here. Yeah,
Oh,
Rakia.
yay. Okay, so if Rakia's here, Rakia is in control, and she absolutely, this is not her first rodeo. Hey, Rakia, I see you. She knows how to navigate these conversations. So, Rakia, why don't you introduce yourself and let them know what to expect?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited, y'all. I've been looking forward to this all month. And so I'm so excited to be here with you all this afternoon. Yeah, so how we'll go is I just will introduce myself. I'll introduce everyone that's here. If you could please send in the chat just to the panelists, not to the attendees and panelists. If you could please send um, your name and your position, and that will help me as I introduce everyone. And so yeah, I'll introduce myself, introduce you all, and then we'll just hop straight into it with the questions. Some questions I will direct towards certain folks, and if you want to answer, please feel free to privately message me and say, "Hey, Rakia, I think I want to take on this question," and we can, I can, direct it to you. And then there'll be some questions that I'll open to all of the panelists. Do you all have any questions?
No.
Now, oh yes, let me see. I think we have someone in the audience that has a question. Yeah, I think some of our audience folks may have thought that out. Hi, ladies. So glad you all are still here with us. Please feel free to take these few minutes to stand up and stretch, or run to the restroom, or maybe go grab a snack. We are just preparing for you all for our next session, our panel discussion that starts at 2 p.m. So you have about 5 minutes. All right. And just want to make sure I have this. Hi, Miss Davis.
Hello. You look great.
Thank you so much. You look beautiful as well. It's so good to see you.
You too, sweetie. You too. You doing good?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
And so, Miss Davis, where are you?
I am at Woodside High School.
Okay, awesome.
I'm at Woodside High School. I've been there for about 2 years. I left Ward and went back to school full time. And I received another degree, my master's in social work. And now I'm working on my license. So I'm excited.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So what's your title at Woodside?
I'm still the student support specialist.
Okay.
Just a little more knowledge, but still the student support specialist.
Awesome.
So I like it. It's different environment and different dynamics, but I really like it.
Awesome.
Where are you at now?
I went to VCU. I graduated in 2018, but I still live in Richmond.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm full-time in my master's program. I'm actually at American in DC, but this is my last semester, so I'm almost done.
Wonderful. So what are you getting your master's in?
Educational policy and leadership.
Excellent. Okay.
Right.
That is great.
Thank
That
you.
is great.
Now is Miss Terry, is it Kesey? Is she
Yes.
at Woodside with you?
She's at, nope, Miss Kesey is at Minchfield.
Minchfield, okay.
Mhm. And I'm putting it in the chat now.
Awesome. And then Kimtrice Slaughter, am I pronouncing that correctly? Kimtrice? Okay, she might have stepped away. And then I have Stephanie Campbell. Hi, Stephanie. And you are a school psychologist.
Yes.
What school are you at?
I'm at Kiln Creek, Rich Neck, and Menchville.
And then I see I have some, let's see. Taylor McDonald, you student support specialist, intern at Minchville.
Yes, ma'am.
Yay! All right. And then I also see we have Michelle Mitchell and Linda Escu and Christy Croft. Are you all joining us this evening, or are you on our tech team?
Hi, this is Linda Askew. I'm just here to support. I'm not part of the panel, but I can log off if that will make it easier because I don't want to disrupt anything.
Oh, you're fine. Whatever makes you comfortable. I just want to make sure that I have all of the panelists. I want to read off who I have, and then just to make sure I'm not missing everyone, and then we're going to get started very shortly. So for the panel, I have Katina, Terry, Kimtrice, Stephanie, and Taylor. Awesome.
Oh yeah, Kimtrice is here. You called me. I'm sorry. I stepped away for a second.
Okay, and Kimtrice, are you also a Warwick alum?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Okay.
My daughter actually attended Warwick for 2 years.
Okay, awesome. What year was she at Warwick?
What's this? 20, her ninth, and she's in the 12th grade, so her 9th and 10th year, she did IB at Warwick.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. We're gonna give it a few more minutes, a few more seconds, excuse me. All right. And Terry, are you back with us?
Sorry, I had to go get some water.
No, you're fine. And then Katina, are you back with us? All right, everyone is back with us. So we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all the panelists and to all of the participants that we have with us watching. My name is Rakia Taylor. I am a full-time student at American University studying educational policy and leadership. And I am your moderator for this afternoon's panel discussion on mindset and positive mental health. I must also mention that I am a Warwick High School alum, and so if there are any Raiders out there, hello to you all. And now I would love to introduce my panelists. And so first we have, and if you could just give a little wave, if you're in the audience, give us a few virtual hand claps. So first we have Ms. Katina Davis, who is a student support specialist at Woodside High. We have Terry Kesey, who is a student support specialist at Minchville, and you ladies just heard from them. And so thank you so much for joining us again. Next, we have Kimtrice Slaughter, who is a psychotherapist. We have Miss Stephanie Campbell, who is a Newport News Public Schools school psychologist. And finally, but certainly not least, we have our student support specialist intern from Minchville High, Miss Taylor McDonald. Yay, so thank you everyone. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll open this up to all of the panelists. And the first question we have is, sometimes you make mistakes or we face challenges and we might feel really defeated or feel really bad about ourselves, which makes it hard to maintain a positive mindset. What advice do you all have regarding perceptions of mistakes and maintaining a positive attitude throughout challenges and setbacks? And why don't we start with Terry?
Yeah, okay. I would say learning to reframe it, okay? Acknowledging what I like to suggest to students is just acknowledging the negative thoughts and feelings about the situation, then asking yourself, what else is possible here? This will kind of guide you back to a more positive mindset. Because we know challenges and setbacks, they're going to happen, okay? Remaining positive is a choice, right? So the quicker you learn to reframe, the more time you will spend in like a positive space, right? So I always tell people too, to kind of make changes on those things that we know that we can control, focusing on those areas where we know we have agency over. It's always possible to take actions to make things better for yourself. So one other thing I always suggest is radical acceptance, just accepting things that you can't change, even if they're not right, or even if you don't agree with them.
That's good.
Terry, I'm gonna can I piggyback off what Terry said?
Yes, absolutely.
Just kind of to add what you said about reframing, and understanding reframing basically is changing how your thoughts work, changing it from thinking negative to thinking positive, perceiving it in a different way, perceiving your mindset in a different way. One thing about mistakes is that we learn from our mistakes. Mistakes help us become stronger and better and more powerful. So don't look at mistakes as something that's going to lower your self-esteem or you feel bad about. Look at it as another opportunity to learn and be great. So mistakes are okay.
That's all. Can I add a little bit?
Yes, please.
So when it comes to mistakes, and I never teach anything that I don't do myself. So when it comes to mistakes, I never take them personally, because I understand that I'm human and I have to allow myself to have human moments. So I look at mistakes as I made a mistake, but I'm not a mistake, right? Which allows me to feel confident enough to make more decisions, because what happens is sometimes when we make mistakes, then we become afraid to make other decisions because we don't trust ourselves, because we're so focused on making a mistake. But the thing we have to focus on is I am not a mistake. I made a mistake and I'm human, and I have to allow myself to be human and not take the mistakes that I've made personally.
And I think too, just admitting, that you made a mistake. And a lot of times when you go to somebody and talk about it, especially if it was in a relationship or something like that, people will be a lot more understanding than if you try to kind of cover it up or avoid talking about it. People really appreciate that honesty, and they're probably going to share back, well, I've done something like that too before, or you'll be surprised at how people would react. So I think honesty always goes a long way too.
Thank you so much for that, everyone. Those are some really great responses. I'm putting some of those in my mental health toolbox. And Catrice, we have someone that adores your earrings.
Oh, well, thank you. I adore them too.
I just wanted to acknowledge that. And so this next question is for Catrice and Katina. Sometimes we feel as though we're responsible for taking care of others and we neglect our own personal needs. In fact, we don't even do the basic things that we need to take care of our physical health, like eye exams, annual checkups, maybe seeking medical attention when we get sick. seeking out therapy, the list goes on. Can you all discuss the importance of taking care of yourself, not only physically, but emotionally, in some ways that we can engage in self-care?
Sure, I'll start. So I would say that we can never ask from the world or request from the world what we're not willing to give to ourselves. So if we're not willing to take care of ourselves, then we can't request those things from the world. I think sometimes we form this sense of resentment to people when we feel they're asking too much from us. But what we really need to learn is to set boundaries, and we need to learn that no is a complete sentence. N-O, period, right? It's a complete sentence, and then we move on, and never betray ourselves in a way where we feel like we're obligated or we self-obligate in a situation where then we build that resentment. So taking care of yourself, if you don't take care of yourself, then you have nothing to give anyone else. And so if I have a glass of water and I have 3 sips, and Rakia, you say, well, I'm thirsty, I'm gonna take 2 sips and give you 1. Because what I'm not gonna do is give you the whole bottle and then be angry because you took it. Because there are some people who are just takers. And as long as you give, they're going to take. And so the thing is, when I take care of myself and I give to myself, I'm giving to you out of overflow. I'm not giving to you anything that I necessarily need. I'm giving to you out of overflow. So taking care of ourselves is important, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we have nothing to give anyone else.
That's awesome. And thank you so much for that visual as well. Katina, can you follow up on that?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Slaughter. That was great. And I always use that same analogy when I'm trying to explain self-care to people, that if we have an empty cup, we cannot help anyone if we're empty. That's why it is so important to really take care of our self-care mentally, physically, and emotionally. Physically, many people are sick physically and have to deal with diseases, and they're ill because they're not physically taking care of themselves. Emotionally, we talked about that earlier when we talked about anxiety and depression, and just having a sense of understanding who you are. Everyone, especially when you are young, feel a sense to say yes, because we want to be loved, we want to be understood, we want to be admired, we want to feel like we're needed. And when we're young like that, those different kind of wants causes us to give of ourselves instead of allowing people to give of us. So as you get older and you learn that first you got to take care of you, first you got to save you, first you got to energize you before you can do those same things to other people. So question is, how do I do it? You just do it. You tell yourself you're valuable, you're loved, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're great, you're awesome, you're amazing, and you do it for yourself. Then, like Ms. Slaughter said, if you have some overflow left, if you have a little bit left, you share it, okay? But you got to take care of you first. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You both mentioned this. I love to call it an art because it is a form of art. You both mentioned this art of saying no. And we know that it can be hard to tell people no sometimes. We feel like we're capable of taking on all things. And we even may get overwhelmed sometimes with things like school, work, family circumstances, friends, and our extracurricular activities. And we don't want to seem weak by saying no. Or, we may come off as people pleasers. And so we don't want to say no. Can you help us understand? This is for Terry and Katina. I'll start with Terry first and go to Katina. Can you please help us understand why it's okay to say no? Yeah.
Most certainly, because kind of like what we talked about earlier in our self-care segment, you can't allow yourself to be depleted. Okay, we give, but where does that leave us in the end? So how can we actually do anything for anybody else if we don't learn how to say no and learn how to just step back and recognize when, recognize when enough is enough for us. It has to, at some point, get to a place where you recognize that you have to take a break for you, for your own emotional well-being. So it's okay. It's okay to step back. You know, life is one continuous cycle between things happening to us and us always feeling like we have to respond to them. And often we aren't even aware of these automatic reactions until they've happened, until we've just exhausted. So I always tell people sometimes just take a step back and just be okay with saying no. And I
Terry,
hope
thank you, Terry. Terry, you basically said it all. You
Mhm.
know, you have to be okay with not being okay, and not being okay is saying no and not feeling guilty or bad about it.
that's right.
Guilt eats us from the inside, and we cannot continue to feel guilty about loving who we are.
Yes.
So think about no as saying yes to yourself. You may say no to your work, but you say yes to Katina. You may say no to your children, but you're saying yes to Terry. You may say no to your husband, but you're saying yes to Miss Slaughter. You're saying yes to yourself. So we need to use that as we need to practice. We need to practice saying yes to ourselves and no to other people and not holding that guilt.
That's right. And you made a good point, Katina. We have to detach ourselves from the guilt that's associated with it, because that's what keeps us in this place where we feel like we have to keep doing things because of the guilt that, you know, we associate with saying no. So we have to be okay, and we have to be very, very intentional and very deliberate with self-preservation. And that's one of the things we have to keep in the forefront of our mind, you know? So, you know, in a respectful way, we just have to step back.
If I could add to that, I'm sorry, if I
Absolutely.
could add
Oh,
to
you're
that,
fine.
I agree with you. That's perfect. And I will also say, you know, people get used to us saying yes. So when we continuously give away our yeses, people don't respect our no's.
Right.
Only way they can respect our no's is if we are not constantly giving away our yeses. Our yeses should be a gift to people, not something that they expect from us.
And I just went. This is the last thing, Ricky, and I promise I'll let you have it back. But if you have a piece of paper or anything beside you, I want you to write this and put this on your mirror, even a sticky. Being selfish is selfless.
And being selfish sometimes, like I said earlier, is self-preservation. Okay.
Being selfish is selfless. Because selfish has such a negative connotation on it. And when it comes to self-care and loving you, that's not negative.
That's right.
This is awesome. I love that saying no is a yes to yourself. That is powerful right there. I hope you ladies are taking notes in the audience, because this is some good stuff. Now I want to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to come over to Stephanie and Taylor for this question. Oftentimes, we end up in situations and we overstep our bounds and respond inappropriately because our mindset has been impacted by the things that we see and hear, maybe on social media, TV, music, maybe even things that's happened to us in the past. So, what advice can you give to us regarding appropriate responses and knowing when and how to step back?
Well, I know this is something I wish I had known about when I was a lot younger, because I remember having reactions to things that happened or to people and thinking, why am I acting like this in this situation? But, you know, I didn't reflect on it that much. And over time, as I've gotten older, I've learned to kind of breathe and take a step back and think, okay, I'm really overreacting. And then I'll try to journal and try to come up with what is the reason, what's the background of this, why am I having this reaction? And then it helps me next time the similar situation comes up and say, oh yeah, that's my button, that's being pushed, let me step back and breathe. And I think that's the hard part sometimes, is just taking that step back.
Yeah, just to add to that, our reactions, when we react, it's usually in the heat of the moment. We're reacting with our emotions and our feelings, and everything is consumed, like all our thoughts are consumed by those two things. So taking a moment before we respond, like we were talking about in our session, is breathing, taking a step back and breathing before we react. Because when we are stressed out or we're really anxious, we don't always react in the best ways. And so we got to reduce those stress and anxiety levels in order to react in the best fit way.
That is, oh, go ahead. Terry, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to, address the first part of that question that you presented when you said that how we can end up in situations and we overstep our bounds and respond inappropriately because our mindset has been impacted by the things that we kind of hear in music and the things that we kind of see in media. Am I on the right track? Is that what I believe you said at the beginning? I just wanted to respond to that part of it because everything else that everybody said was excellent. In terms of being influenced by the media and TV and music, and that, we kind of respond to life situations based off of what we've been exposed to. The one thing I want to say to that is follow your values. I always tell people the way you think, speak, and behave should always match your values. When situations don't align with your personal values, you have to make a conscious effort to identify that and then to live in your values. So that when you carry that mindset, no TV, no music, no anything should ever be able to influence how you interact in life in different situations.
And you mentioned values and identifying your values. Can you and other panelists want to add into this? Can you give us some practical ways that we can what are values? How do we identify these values?
I always say things that you believe in and hold true to your heart, things that guide, your being and your doing in this world, in this space that we live in and move through. So that's how I look at it is, things that I hold close to my heart that I know that I'm not going to ever compromise on. And you can pick these up along in life. These are things that maybe you pick up just in your family setting. How you were raised. Sometimes we definitely pick up beliefs and values, as a part of our upbringing. So these are the things that guide you in life. These are the things that you live by and you honor and you respect. And that's why I was saying, if you find yourself in a situation, because yes, if we listen, part of my self-care is just totally checking out because sometimes the TV is too much. I can't even listen to the radio because that's horrible. So the music, the TV, it is coming to us. It is coming to us from every different direction. And a lot of people are influenced. We taking in this, the stimuli all day long, and sometimes it can influence us. But that's why I always say, if you hold true and follow your values, they will lead the way for you. Okay. They will help you along the way. Like I said earlier, the way you think, the way you speak, the way you behave, always align that with your values and your.
And I think too, I was going to say that I think that we can recognize when we're going outside of our values, because there's usually that little uncomfortable feeling, that little voice in our heads that's just kind of doesn't feel right. And I think that's a good way to recognize when you're kind of getting away from what you believe.
That's right.
And I just wanted to add, I've done an activity a few times with other groups of students where you write down things that are important to you, and then like a huge list, and then you go and cross off 10. Then you go cross off 5, and you do that continuously for a couple times, and you come down to these core values, these core things that make you who you are and what influence you the most. And if you're struggling with figuring out what your values are, I recommend this because this is a way that you're able to think about what's important in your life and what you hold dear.
And just to add, if we want to just bring everything together to just closing this particular question, integrity is a value. Honesty is a value. Good character is a value. Responsibility is a value. Work ethic is a value. So everything all the panelists said is an excellent foundation for just having high ethics and having high value as a person.
So identifying those values and honoring yourself by sticking to those values and using that as a foundation to come back to whenever we feel, we're going through challenges, and we need to respond to things that might pull us out of character, making sure that we had those values to hold us firm in our foundation. That's good. Thank you so much, ladies. Taylor and Kim Trees, I'm coming to you for this question. Peer pressure is real, okay? Especially with the influence of social media and trying to fit in, it sometimes can be difficult to battle this peer pressure and this struggle to be accepted. What suggestions do you have that help us combat the mindset we have to be accepted by others?
Well, I think the main thing is understanding who you are. Identity is extremely important. And our identity should not be wrapped up in other people or what other people think of us or what other people are doing. Knowing who you are and standing on that truth, no matter the mood of the room, no matter what other people are doing, and not becoming a part of the group think, and having your own identity in who you are. Because oftentimes when it comes to peer pressure, we think that people are trying to pull us to do things that we don't feel comfortable with doing, and that is the case. That is right in most cases, but in some cases they're pulling you to do it because they don't really want to do it and they just want somebody to do it with them. But when we stand on our truth and when we stand on who we are, we give other people permission to do the same thing. And so when they see us standing up for who we are and not being a part of the group think and being okay with being the outsider and going a different direction, then it gives them permission to do the same, to say, well, she's not doing it, so I'm not doing it. Sometimes they're just looking for somebody, one person in the group to say, no, I'm not doing that. And then they're like, oh, I'm not doing it either. But when everyone says, yeah, let's do this, we're going to do this, you still have people who may feel uncomfortable, and they may start looking around like, okay, who's gonna buck the system, right? And we just have to have enough courage to buck the system, and that comes in identity and understanding that I don't need to be accepted by this specific group in order for me to be valuable. I was valuable when I showed up. And so owning that value and standing on, like someone said earlier, standing on those values and saying, no, I'm good. And then watch how other people, your other friends will be like, yeah, I'm going with her. So sometimes we gotta light the match.
Good. I love that. Taylor, do you have anything to add to that?
Trace, you hit it. But I would say, like, mostly just accepting yourself for yourself. That's like the main and like first part of saying no to peer pressure is loving who you are no matter what. And so working with that, you'll be able to have more confidence. You'll be able to be more true to yourself if you actually show yourself that love in that space.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just say one thing, like you said, just being really influenced by trying to fit in and trying to belong. The thing is, we all have that desire to belong. We are innately social creatures, and acceptance and belonging are core needs for us, right? We feel security when we belong. I know a lot of you students haven't heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but during Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they believe that most of society's social problems stem from the basic need for belonging not being met. So it is a serious pressure to want to fit in. So I always encourage students, make sure you surround yourself around positive people. And it goes back to things that were already said, like Patrice just said, and like I talked about earlier, it goes back to finding those people who share similar values to you. And that is not to say that you may hang around people who share the same values of you and they're never going to do anything that's, bad or wrong. I'm not suggesting that. But the chances are that if you hang around people who share, some of the same values as you, y'all gonna, do some of the same things or have some of the same desires and wants. So maybe, just maybe, you won't be put into these situations where you find yourself compromising your values by doing something that you don't believe in. So that's what I always, try to encourage people. Find those positive people and surround yourself with them. Those people that share the same values and have the same similar belief systems as you. So that can kind of decrease the chances of getting yourself into those compromising situations.
That is awesome. So, what I heard is that, with peer pressure, there's also this power of influence and having the courage, one, to not only be positive influencers and having the courage to say, no, that's not right when we're in situations where we might feel that negative peer pressure, but then also having the courage to surround ourselves around folks that has positive influence over us. That's some powerful stuff right there. Thank you all for that. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm going to come to Stephanie and Kimtrice for this question. And this addresses one of the questions that we actually had in our chat. It's inevitable that sometimes we'll end up in a toxic relationship that we'll have to learn how to navigate. This relationship could be with a peer, a significant other, or maybe even a family member. How do you handle yourself in this type of negative environment? And how would you go about separating yourself from people who aren't healthy from you and who promote a negative mindset?
Okay, so this is easy because I'll just talk about a little bit about what I talked about in my session. Choosing you, having an emotional prenup. An emotional prenup it basically says I'm not looking outside of myself. I'm not looking for anyone to bring me confidence. I'm not looking for anyone to bring me identity. I'm not looking for anyone to bring me worth, and I'm not looking for anyone to bring me happiness. I am complete, I am whole. And when I get into a relationship with you, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever type of relationship it is, you are not there to complete me because I'm already whole. You are there to complement what's there. So if you decide to leave, you're going to take what you brought in, nothing, right? And so I always tell my teenagers, make sure you have that emotional prenup, because that keeps us from being on the floor, licking the carpet when that person decides not to choose us, right? And so you may be hurt when the person decides not to choose you. However, you ain't losing weeks at a time because you can't eat, you can't sleep because this person then took a part of you with them. And so don't allow people to bring you anything that you don't want them to take with them, right? And then the next thing I would say is boundaries, putting boundaries in place, letting people know what you can and cannot say to me and what you can and cannot do to me. And then when you set those boundaries, holding down the fort, don't make excuses for people. If they cross your boundaries, check them. Have a conversation with them. Hey, we already talked about this. This is not something that I'm willing to allow you to do or say to me. And then lastly, using your superpower of choice. Like Nina Simone said, when love is no longer being served, get up from the table. You can choose whether you're going to stay or you can choose whether you're going to leave. That is your superpower. And no one gets to make choices for you but you. So if you deem this relationship to be toxic, then make sure before you even get in any relationship, you have that emotional prenup. You set boundaries and you leave the table when love is no longer being served.
And Stephanie, before I come to you, Kimtrice, you shared some amazing information, and I love the emotional prenup. Does this apply to family members? Those are, relationships that we're born into where we might not have, an emotional prenup established. So how do we apply everything that you just shared when it comes to family members? And then Stephanie, I'll come to you for the same question.
So I think it starts with how we define family, because there are people that share the same blood with us, but don't treat us like family and don't interact with us like family. And so I think we have to sometimes redefine family. When family becomes toxic, it's okay for them to get the same type of treatment, that emotional prenup, that's putting those boundaries in place and choosing to walk away. Because if family is really family, then they will interact with us and treat us in ways that are healthy, in ways that make us better, in ways that help grow us and help us progress. If they're not doing that, if they're being toxic, then it's okay for us to say, this is not working. Maybe I need to step back. Because I know in my experience, I have experienced people who don't share the same blood as me treating me more like family than the actual people who do share the same blood as me. And so we have to get out of that mindset that blood is thicker than water, and we have to be loyal. I'm loyal to those who are loyal to me. I'm not loyal to me. I'm not loyal to you just because you're my mother, you're my father, you're my brother, you're my sister, you're my cousin. I'm loyal to you because you're loyal to me. Relationships are reciprocal. If I'm giving, I should be receiving as well. And so that's how I would apply it to family. And that if you're not treating me in the way that I know that I should be treated, then maybe I just need to step back.
And I just want to thank you so much for that, Kimtrice. I also want to echo a comment that was made in the chat. There is a village of folks who are willing to help you navigate through those tough situations. So Stephanie, can you give us a little bit of advice on this topic as well?
Well, I was just thinking, sometimes I think in toxic relationships, especially like a romantic toxic relationship or a friendship, I think sometimes we have trouble seeing it ourselves. Sometimes it's hard for us to recognize that we're in it. So being willing to listen to the people you really care about, if they come to you and say, hey, I've noticed this about this relationship, and then just being open-minded that, hey, maybe they're right. And I was thinking, as far as at your home, I mean, it is really difficult, toxic relationships in a house where you're living, but finding ways to separate yourself. If you have a room that you can go to, if you have a friend's house you can go to, spend the night. There are ways to kind of separate yourself, even though you're kind of stuck living there, if that makes sense. Those are just the things that kind of came to my mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Did any of the other panelists have anything that they would like to add to that before we move on? This is awesome, really great information. Thank you so much. So the next question, this is for Stephanie, Kimtrice, and Terry. Oftentimes, we feel as though we can't talk about our mental health struggles we may be facing. As a result of the current situation with COVID-19, on top of pressure to perform and take care of others, there's been this increase in anxiety and depression among young women and teens in general. How can we address the stigma surrounding mental health? And can you provide with us some coping strategies to help us deal with anxiety and depression? I'll start with you, Terry.
Sorry about that. I was on mute. First of all, this stigma, I always tell people, just, educate yourself first. Okay. Educate yourself first. That, to me, I feel like the people who are out here, placing judgment against people who may be struggling or having some challenges, it's because they are not knowledgeable, truly knowledgeable about everything that encompasses mental health. So that's one of the first things I would say. Just educate yourself, and maybe you could put yourself in a position to educate others so that they will understand better and probably feel differently after they are educated. Now, in terms of coping skills and anxiety, we talked a lot about that in our last session. And anxiety is real. And the one thing that I share with the young ladies is, first and foremost, when you're feeling the anxiety coming on, acknowledge it, okay? And allow it to be there. Allow it to be there because, like I explained to them, that takes a huge amount of power away from that heavy, strong emotion, okay? And if your first instinct is to stuff it away and just not deal with it, just stuff that emotion down inside of you, not only will it persist, but it's probably going to be it will intensify. So and once it intensifies, it's going to be very hard to control. So just acknowledge that it's there. And then there are several different things that you can do to kind of control that anxiety. We talked about relaxation tools and relaxation skills like deep breathing. Deep breathing was the one we talked mainly about because how it benefits us in kind of activating that relaxation response within our bodies, and moving us out of that fight, flight, or freeze mode to more of a rest and digest mode. So that is very, very important. Surrounding yourself around positive people that are supportive, that will be there to listen to you, people that you can kind of talk to. Some other ones that we talked about was, let's see, so many, getting enough sleep. We talked about how sleep has magical powers in restoring and rejuvenating us. Because I don't know about anybody else, but I every time I come home from work, I have to take a good 15 to 20-minute power nap. I need that restoration to move throughout the rest of my day because it's draining. And then you got to come home and then you have to deal with, life with your family. So sleep is very, very magical and it's very, very restorative. Okay. And, things like just exercising, getting that oxygen flowing throughout your body, releasing those endorphins, eating right. Those are some of the things that I shared with the young ladies earlier that they can put into their self-care toolbox and just pull from. And we talked about support systems, just having that connection with your school counselors, your teachers, your family members, your positive friends, people that in times of crisis that you can go to, that's going to be there to support you through whatever it is that you're experiencing. Okay. And if it gets to the point where the feelings are just too overwhelming and too intense, let somebody know so that they can get you the help that you need. It's okay. Those are your emotions. Those are your feelings. You should not be ashamed of them. And you should not try to hide them or stuff them. There's a lot of support out here for you. So if you reach out to someone, they can guide you in the direction that you need to go in to receive that support and help. But again, going back to, like I said, if we just educate people on mental health, make them more knowledgeable, then maybe they would be more accepting and less judgmental.
Well, and I was thinking, Terry, just piggybacking on that, I do think a lot of the stigma around talking about mental health has to do with the fact that people don't talk about it. So once you start opening up and sharing your true feelings and what's going on inside of you, I'm just a big believer in talking and sharing. And people are going to do that back with you. And you're going to be amazed at how many people also have the same feelings or facing the same things. But it's just taking that step just to share and to be open. And you'll find some great relationships that way too.
That is true, Stephanie, because some people are, they struggle and they don't want to reveal that because of fear of judgment. But when they hear somebody else share their story, then that gives them safety and permission to share how they're feeling. They feel more secure. It's a vulnerable place to be in because you are afraid of, what someone else is going to say, the judgment that you're going to receive. So yes, like you said, Stephanie, just being, just being okay with sharing your story, help somebody else be okay with opening up and sharing their story. That was a great point.
That's awesome.
You have something you wanted to add?
Yes. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, yeah. So mine's quick. I agree with everything that everybody just said. I would, one of my favorite things that I say is stigma lives in spaces of ignorance, and the cure to ignorance is competence. So like Terry said, like educate yourself on it. A lot of times we are afraid of things because we don't understand them. And so we shy away from them. So we have to make ourselves competent in those areas so that we can feel more comfortable with them. Because once we feel more comfortable with talking about mental health, then it makes other people around us feel more comfortable with talking about mental health. So when it comes to stigma, it's more so about not that people despise talking about mental health. It's just that they feel uncomfortable with it. And the human brain does not like to be uncomfortable. It likes to be comfortable. And so educating ourselves is extremely important. And with coping, grounding, I love grounding. Grounding is extremely important. And I use several things, even when I'm anxious, I use tapping. I'll tap these pressure points. I'll tap here, or I'll use a rubber band. I'll put a rubber band around my arm and I'll pluck. Don't pull too hard, but do a little pluck in there. Sometimes walking outside, grounding yourself to the earth. Those things are extremely helpful. And the biggest thing that I do, and I tell everybody to do, I think people be sleeping on this tool, is taking a bath. There's so many health benefits, proven scientific health benefits to taking a bath. Taking a bath can improve heart health. It balances out the hormones in our bodies. It balances out our nervous system. It moisturizes our skin. And this chocolate needs to be moisturized. It balances out the temperature in our body. And so most of all, the fact that it balances our hormones, and it balances our nervous system, because that's where the anxiety is coming from. It's our nervous system. So how do we calm our nervous system? The fastest is to get in a warm tub of water, put some lavender in there, put some chamomile in there, and just put the water up like over your chest to allow your head to stick out. And you automatically feel all that pressure being released from your body. And then what happens? Come on, y'all remember when y'all was kids and y'all got in trouble? Y'all might have got popped once or twice and your mother told you to go take a bath. And you went to the bath. When you get out that bath, what you do? You go right to sleep.
It felt much better.
Much better.
That's the best sleep you ever had.
Ever, yes.
In your life. So if you're feeling anxious and you implemented or like some of these coping tools, because you'll find that you may use a coping skill today because you're anxious and it works, and tomorrow you may use it and it may not work. And you'll be like, what? It worked yesterday? That's always work.
But Kim Trees, I like how you said go outside, connecting with nature. Wow.
Absolutely.
I said earlier, what you hear, what you see, what you experience, nature can definitely improve your mood in a moment. So that's one that people, and I know it's big. People go outside and walk, and people go outside and ride bikes. But I mean, you got to really be out there and, connecting,
Absolutely. I had a neighbor. I had a neighbor, and I don't know how he found out I was a therapist, but he came and knocked on my door one day and he said, hey, I heard that you were a therapist and I'm just really dealing with anxiety. He was an older man with anxiety, and I'm standing at the door with my robe on like, what? And he's like, just give me some tips. And so I was like, so I told him, I was like, look, walk outside with no shoes on. And every morning, now I ain't telling him to do all this, but he did it. Every morning, he would walk his dog with no shoes on. And I would see him and he would be like, oh my gosh, I've been in therapy for years. And no one has ever said this to me. He said, this is the best tool that I've ever used. And every morning from 6 to 6:30, he walked his dog with no shoes on. And he said it totally released.
That is a powerful earthing, connecting, to the soil, connecting your spirit to the soil. That's a powerful one. Very, very powerful tool.
That's actually a tool that I use and I love it. If I ever feel that I need to reground myself, I literally spend time with the soil in the ground.
Bingo.
You're playing with the soil and connecting, just with nature, you will feel this it's like a reset.
Yes.
Kind of regrounds you. So
like a peace. It brings so much peace to your soul.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And the plants love it as well. They love it. They do, some people kind of laugh, but I think, we have some 7th grade science folks. We know that when you talk to the plants, you communicate with the plants, that carbon dioxide that you put out helps with their photosynthesis. So plants love it as well. Katina, I'm gonna
Yes.
wrap up this conversation with you.
Okay.
There's a question: is it okay to stay in the room all day if you're depressed?
Oh, absolutely not. Depression, it comes in different forms. Depression, you feel detached, irritable, sad, sleeping all the time, overeating, undereating. It comes in so many different forms. And many times people do not want to discuss or talk about depression because you do not get as much support as if for mental illness that you receive for a physical illness. So when I talk to people, I give them the analogy of saying, if someone told you they had cancer, you would say, oh, I'm so sorry. What can I do to help? If someone told you they broke both of their legs, oh, let me bring some food over. Do you need me to come to the hospital? You constantly receiving support, compassion, empathy, understanding. You know, they're laying out the red carpet for you because it's accepting. But when someone come to you and say, I'm just gonna stay in my room all day because I just don't feel good, or I want to hurt myself, or I just don't feel right. You do not get that same type of sympathy. So basically, to answer your question, absolutely not. It is not okay to stay in your room all day. If you have that symptom where you do not want to go out the house or do anything but stay in that room, something is not right, and you need to make yourself talk to somebody, call somebody, okay? Take yourself somewhere, do whatever you need to do to get out of that state of mind. And that's what you're in. You're in what we call a state of mind. You have depression, and then you have clinical depression. Depression, we all get depressed. That's normal. Dog died, feeling sad, the weather is bad today, broke with a boyfriend. We all have depression. But then you have clinical depression. Clinical depression is when you are dysfunctional, that you can't function on an everyday basis. That's when you need help. So I wanted to be able to, and that's why being depressed and mental health is so stigmatized, because no one really talks about it. So that person that stays in their room, you need to go out, step out of your room, call somebody, talk to somebody about it. You'll find that there's a whole lot of people out there that understands, a whole lot of people out there that is with you, that can give you advice and give you techniques, and just be able to refer you to somebody.
Thank you so much for that. And with just 10 minutes left, I'm gonna start taking the questions that are in the chat. And so, Stephanie, what do you do if you don't really know how to tell anyone about the things that you're stressed about, or if you just don't want to? What do you do if you don't want help?
Well, I think our secrets can make us sick. And I almost mean that literally in terms of the stress you feel in your body, your stomach's clenching, you might feel sick to your stomach. And I think just kind of sometimes we just have to admit that we need help. There's just not a choice. We don't live in isolation, and it's not healthy for us to live in isolation. So I think taking that deep breath and taking the risk, and then I think most often you're going to be really happy that you did, because it's like a huge weight off of you. So that would be, my advice is just do it, just talk.
I just wanted to say, when you first led with that, it's a saying that I always like to hear. You are as sick as your secrets, and what that means is holding things in and not opening up and talking about them will make you physically sick, and can pretty much exacerbate any emotional distress that you're already feeling and experiencing. So I like that.
That's good. And I'll also add to that, just as women and young ladies, our physiology, like our body structure is meant to receive and carry things. That's literally, how we are built. And so we have to be very intentional about the things that we're carrying and how we pour those things out. So that's good. That's good. Terry, can you please help us understand, what do we do if we ask for help from a friend, but we're afraid of being rejected?
Uh-oh. Okay, you froze a little bit, so I missed everything that came after friend.
Yes, really quickly, what do we do if we ask a friend for help and we're afraid of being rejected?
Well, I will say this. I'm going to take it back to what I talked about a little bit earlier and what I talked about in the presentation about having those positive, supportive people in your life. You surround yourself with people that are going to be there for you, that's going to listen to you, that's going to support you in whatever challenges or crisis situations that you may experience. You know, those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with. People that's going to build you up, hold you up when you need that, so that if there's ever a situation that you're experiencing, you won't hesitate to reach out to, you know, or support network, because you know that they're going to always be there to have your back. Now, if it's anybody in your circle of friends or your, you know, support network that's not very loving and supportive, then that's when we talked about earlier, you need to ask yourself those serious, heavy questions. Is this a person that I need to have in my circle of friends?
Exactly.
You know, you're going to have to self-reflect and ask yourself.
And I'll open this to Katina, Stephanie, and Terry. Is how do we tell our parents when we need help, and what are some other resources outside of our parents, maybe in school or that the district offers?
Right. I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to go back. I'm answering your question. I'm also going to go back and talk about support systems, and that's going to be able to answer your question also, Rakia. If you have a friend that rejects you, of course, like Terry say, that they're probably not a healthy relationship. It's probably not a healthy relationship in the first place. Okay, so you need to find another friend. But within the school system, we have plenty of support system. We have your school counselors. We also have student support specialists. We have school social workers, and we have mental health therapists that's actually in the school, some of the schools. And so basically, these are people that are there for you to listen, to talk, to understand, provide interventions and strategies. It's going to help you get through school, get through whatever you're going through, get through whatever you're feeling. And if they don't have the answers, they will find the answers for you, okay? In addition, these are also people that can talk with your parent about what you're going through, especially in a confidential manner or in a manner where they're able to understand. Because you may not know how to verbalize or communicate your feelings to your parents, but a counselor know how to, based on his or her expertise, may know how to verbalize that information. So that is another alternative or direction where you, the counselor, and your parent can talk about it. And it's definitely so many resources out there for you. You just have to start being honest with yourself. So often we can lie to other people, but we can't lie to ourselves. Yeah. It's okay to say, I feel sad. I'm lonely. You know, yeah, it's self-awareness and it's self-reflection. So, so did I answer your question, Rakia?
Yes,
Okay.
Thank you. And then Stephanie or Terry, did you all have anything to add in terms of how to express with our parents or maybe other resources?
I was going to say, you know, Katina, Ms. Davis hit the nail on the head, because I was going to say a lot of times students are, you know, reluctant to share information with their parents for fear of how they're going to respond. So that was a good point that you made, that there's a lot of support around you that can help you, you know, facilitate that conversation with your parents. Ms. Davis named all of those different supports that you have in your school, and we will be there. We can be there with you to help you have that conversation. You know, we can be there to help start that conversation with your parents. So please don't ever hesitate to reach out to the many, many different supports that Newport News Public Schools offer. And Ms. Davis just named several, and like she said, you have it from your school counselor to your school psychologist, your school social worker, your support specialist, your mental health therapist. That access is there, definitely. In Newport News Public School, the access to support is there. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
That's why Ms.
not
Bucking,
alone.
Ms. Buckingham put in the chat a link, I think she said, to all the counselors and support people. I think that was for the students as well. So, but another just way that you can reach these people, if you go on your school's website and click on the faculty and staff, it'll list everybody that's there in the schools, and anybody you send an email to or call, they will get you put in the right direction. So.
Thank you so much for that. And this is our final question that I'll open up to all of the panelists with just a few seconds left. How do you accept your identity in the LGBTQ plus community? And I'll open this up to all of the panelists.
I think it's just accepting yourself, period. If that's who you feel that you are, then that's who you are. I think we can't expect other people to accept us when we don't accept ourselves. And so, it's about learning who you are, learning your characteristics, learning your gifts, learning your talents and your traits, and choosing to show up in a way that is authentic to you. Not choosing to show up in a way like you're becoming a chameleon, like, oh, this group is doing this, I'm doing this too, because I want to fit in. And this group is doing this, I'm doing this because I want to fit in. No, you want to be authentic to yourself, because like I said before, when you show up as yourself, you give other people permission to show up as themselves. And so you have to first become confident in who you are. And then you have to understand that not everyone is going to accept you. It doesn't matter whether you're LGBTQ or whether you are or whatever, whether you are in the 9th grade, 10th grade, whether you're playing volleyball, whether you are tall or short, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but you want to be hot for those who feel like you are their cup of tea. And that's where you want to spend your energy. You don't want to spend your energy worried about whether someone is going to accept you or not, because when you accept yourself, that's all that really matters. And people will look at you in a way, and they will see that you are confident because you accept yourself. Now, if you're around people who are not confident, then they will see your confidence as arrogance, and that's not on you. That's not on you, that's on them. And so always walk in confidence, and no matter who you are, and if there's things about you that you don't understand, if there's things about you that you want to grow and progress in, then just educate yourself and surround yourself with people that are going in the same direction as you.
And just to add to what Kim Tree said, make sure you surround yourself by people that's going to support you and not judge nor criticize you. Understand that you are a jewel and everything about you is special and is beautiful. So if you decide to share information with someone, make sure they're worthy of getting to know that side of you. Don't share yourself with those that do not know how to value or take care of the precious jewel you are.
And I want to just say too, right quick, I love that. Just own your truth and be who you are. And the one thing I want to just say is just understand that people may not respond the way you think they should or want them to. It may take time for them to completely accept and appreciate who you are. So, and I know that can be hard, but be patient with them. Okay, that's the one thing. Hang in there and stay true to yourself and just be patient with them, because they may not readily understand and accept it. It may take them some time.
And also understanding that everybody does not deserve your vulnerability. Just because you call them your friend, it doesn't mean that they deserve access to your vulnerability. There are levels of access that we should give to people. And when it comes to something that's so vulnerable to us, then, we have to make sure that we're making sure that these people are in position to be able to access. We give them the code to access. So people can't access parts of us that we don't give them permission to access. And so we have to make sure that before we give someone permission to access our vulnerability, that they are in position to understand, respect, and value that vulnerability.
That's right. I love that. Everybody shouldn't have access to you. I love that.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Can we just give a round of applause to all of our panelists, a virtual round of applause, and a virtual round of applause to all of our young ladies who are watching in the audience. This was great. This was great. I don't know about you all, but I got some things for myself in this conversation. And, you know, we're talking about mindset and positive mental health and how that matters. 5 takeaways that I got, in addition to the resources that were shared in the chat, were nutrition, sleep, making sure that you are getting that exercise, you know, getting that blood circulating, making sure that you're talking to someone and that you're caring for yourself and grounding yourself in identifying your values, right? And then grounding yourself in those values whenever you might face a challenging situation. And so I hope this was just as amazing for you ladies out there watching as it was for all of us up here to share with you all. And with that, I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon and a great rest of your week. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Great.